Hi everyone, this is Arcadius and welcome back to Naval. Today we'll be going over the newest Japanese diamond ship that came out just recently. That is the supercruiser Shirane. I have renamed her Azuma since I have influence from World of Warships, and that is how she is named in that game. I was quite excited for the ship when we were first told about her. However, since playing her, I have actually been kind of disappointed, not gonna lie. But that's for a couple of reasons, but let's just go over the general stats before anything else. So let's see what kind of information we have. So we have 61,100 health, we have 17% torpedo damage resistance, we have a maximum armor of 12 inches or 305 millimeters, and that is found on the turret faces and the back of the turrets. But her belt armor is only 178 millimeters, which is just about 7 inches. Honestly, it's not a lot, but it is somewhat decent, I guess you could say. I remember Baltimore, or at least Norfolk yesterday, had about 5 inches on the belt armor, so 7 inches is a little bit better, but not enough to save you from a ton of citadels if you get broadside. Oh, yeah, we have pretty decent kind of guns. It's hard to tell, honestly. I've had mixed results. Most of the time, I just use the ship as a long-range, high-explosive spammer. I kind of keep her at this kind of angle with the enemy in this direction, and I kind of kite, and I use my high-explosive shells to impact the superstructure and set fires, which she is actually pretty decent at setting fires. You can at least get 1 or 2 per salvo, but sometimes you don't get any at all, so you just have to keep sending salvos. 3 rounds a minute is pretty decent. All the stats here are not bad either. Her armor piercing, however, I find to be quite disappointing. But it's also kind of trolly. I'll be shooting at a broadside battleship and 1 salvo, half of it will shatter. Then the next salvo I'll shoot in the same exact spot and I'll do 20,000 damage. So it's really up to debate on how good her shells are. I feel like the longer you play with her, you might understand her better. I don't have that many games in her because honestly, I don't really enjoy her gameplay right now. But that's just the way it is. Main gun range is 20.2 kilometers, which is actually pretty decent. Secondary range is 5 kilometers. You pretty much have an entire Akazuki on each side, minus the torpedoes. You have the 4 twin 100mm guns, and you have that on both sides. These are kind of like Mikhail Kutuzov in the way that they are pinpoint accurate, but they're also only 100mm guns, so they don't really do all that much unless you're shooting a destroyer. But they're there if you ever need them. Just you should never be close enough to use your secondaries at all. The one spot where I do find her is pretty decent is actually her Aaa Defense. She has the highest Aaa Defense rating on any Japanese cruiser that's currently in this game. Outer range of 93 DPS at 5 kilometers, and a middle range of 117 DPS at 3.1 kilometers. She does also come equipped with an anti-air defense barrage, and she has 3 fighters, which she launches 2 at a time. So she has as much AA defense as you're ever going to get on a Japanese cruiser, and she is pretty decent actually. At tier 9 you go up against Taihos and Essex and Audacious and even the occasional Victorious if you come across a player with that, though I don't really know what you're going to do to a Victorious. But against the other 3 you will knock down a lot of aircraft if you're focused, especially if you make her full anti-aircraft build. However, I do have her slotted for accuracy, at least in the module. That is because her accuracy is sometimes questionable. Sometimes you'll have spot-on target salvos, and others you'll have shells that go left, they go right, they go up, and they go down. They just don't hit the ship at all, or they don't have enough to hit the ship. A couple of the things, she has a speed of 33 knots, so she's not as fast as other Japanese cruisers, but she's definitely not slow by any means either. She has enough speed to keep up with the rest of the fleet and become quite good on the flanks. So yeah, just a good AA long-range high-explosive spammers. It's pretty much what you get. So if that's the kind of gameplay that you're looking for, then this is a good ship for you. However, there's also the fact that Alaska and Guam can do the exact same kind of thing, and in my opinion, they are better than Azuma. And they are also prism ships, so you can even get the free XP bonus and all the other benefits from that. But if you're looking for just a diamond ship, then this one might be okay for you if that's the kind of gameplay you want. She is the only Japanese cruiser besides Hashidate that doesn't actually have torpedoes. So you do also have to keep that in mind. You don't have any torpedoes as backup if you get into a bad situation. You only have your speed, pretty much. And you're not really going to outrun anything. So with that, let's toss her into a game and see what we can do today. Alright, here results the game. We have a carrier, 4 battleships, only 1 cruiser, which is also another Azuma, considering I'm playing her, and 2 destroyers. Now, I actually already played a game in this ship today when I was trying to first record this video, and it was not that good of a game, so I'm actually quite happy about this matchmaking. Let's see what we have. We have an Audacious, we have a Frede de Gros, we have an Alzus, 2 Lions, an Azuma, Fletcher, and a Tashkent. So we're going to start off with High Explosive, and we're going to head towards the right flank here to see if we can get some good shots on any of these targets. And you want to stay from island populated areas because cover is not going to really give you an advantage. It's actually going to be a disadvantage because it's going to force you closer to the enemy ships, which means you won't be able to really use your range all that well. In fact, we can actually compare the ranges of all the other super cruisers at this tier. I will have our own stats clash a portion for super cruisers specifically once we get to this tier. And that'll include Azuma, the ship, it'll include Guam, it will have Lean or the O-Class, and it'll also have Kronstadt, plus whatever other super cruisers they decide to come out with. But I don't think there's much more than that. Alright, so we already have eyes on the Frede de Gros. Let's see if we can get any decent damage on her. I think she's going to turn this way, but she might straighten out and turn back. It looks like she's straightening out. Alright, so let's just send some shells that way. We have the Tashkent on this side. Let's put our fighters in the air. As you can see here, you do launch both of them at once. And let's see, any good damage? 3 pens, well, 2 pens, 1 shatter, but we did get a fire. Fire damage is what's going to save you. Alright, all this are a little bit faster than Frede de Gros. So let's aim a little bit more towards the bow here. 1 pen. Nothing too amazing. Alright, so super cruiser. Honestly, armor piercing might be decent at this kind of angle when she's fully broadside, but since I only have, high explosive loaded, I'm going to shoot that. I still was able to get 10k damage on this ship. It looks like the enemy carrier is focusing on the Tashkent right now, but considering she's in smoke, it's not gonna do much to her. Right, let's see what we can do. We're gonna need to light some fires on this Alzus here, because armor piercing is not gonna do anything against a target like that. We set another fire. If she turns broadside, I can try and use armor piercing, but like I said, I haven't had much luck with it so far. But we are taking out quite a few secondaries on this Alzus. Let's bring our fighters back in for right now so they don't get shot down. We only have 3 of them. Ooh. The enemy Azuma just got herself handed a nice defeat by some good torpedoes. Alright, we're going to switch to armor piercing to see how that affects this battleship. We were able to get a double fire, well, in that one salvo, but we now have a triple fire on this Alzus. But she is looking at me very... well, I don't like that look. Alright, let's see what we can do. Armor piercing is at 21,000 damage. So at close range, it's a lot better. Oh, when you're close range, as you can see, you get citadeled quite easily. Oh, and we're down now, since I wasn't paying attention to where we're going. That should finish her off though. A couple fires, and that'll be it. So let's see what else we can do. So I can show you what armor piercing is at range. So this is about 13 kilometers. Well, it's not really a decent shot, but still will be enough. You just shatter an overpen. I want this carrier to focus on me. Alright, so we're gonna go rush the carrier here. But yeah, so you have mixed results with your armor piercing on different targets. There's some times where I've been going up against Iowas and Yamatos, and I haven't been able to citadel them until they're between 3 and 5 kilometers. And even when I was shooting the other broadside, it was sometimes just shattering on their armor belt. So it really is up to debate on how good this armor piercing is. But I've found it to be somewhat disappointing unless you're at point blank range, which you're really not supposed to be at. Alright, so let's send a few more salvos out. And then I'm actually going to switch to high explosive here. Let's launch our fighters again, see if we can get eyes on this carrier. Yeah, see, broadsiding, 2 pens, 2 shatters. And what was that, 5 misses, even with the accuracy module, and it's only at 12.5 kilometers. Yeah, that's with accuracy module. I don't know if I have the crew skill fully developed, but still. And so that was about 6,000 damage and a fire. So you let the fires do the damage for you, and you'll be alright. Another 6,000. Alright, let's switch target here. How's our fighters doing? We lost one. Alright, so let's bring it back in and send out the other one while we can. So you can clearly see how you might not do as much damage with high explosive, but it's more consistent. And you'll also be able to set fires, sometimes multiple fires, as we saw in that Alzus. So if you just let the fires do the damage for you, then that works out over time. There's another fire. Right, there's the Audacious. She is aground. Let's see if we can get her attention and show off the AA. Like I said before, she's the only cruiser, Japanese cruiser, that doesn't have torpedoes. Well, honestly, I don't think that's a negative side, because if you're going to only have like 8-kilometer torpedoes like Ibuki, then they're really not going to do anything. Like maybe a minimum of 15-kilometer torpedoes would be what you need to actually be effective with them. But even then, you just don't need it. Alright, let's see. Did we get the attention of the carrier yet? We did indeed. Awesome. But we need a little bit more than 1 torpedo squadron. How's our fighters doing? Okay, so now we have dive bomber squadron. Oh, we actually took a torpedo through the island. Alright. I'm gonna wait until they get another strike off. I'm going to tempt fate a little bit, but I do want to show off the AA on the ship, because that is a fairly important piece of information when it comes down to it. As you can see, I am pretty taking down these fighters really easily. Alright, secondaries. So let's see what the secondaries can do. They can hit, but they don't really do a lot of damage. My fighters get shot down. Nope, they're engaging the fighters over there. Let's switch to armor piercing here. Okay, so we're gonna wait for some. Okay, there we go. Now the torpedo bombers are out. Now it's time to maneuver. Our defensive AA is activated. And we're just taking down a whole bunch of aircraft here. And we're actually getting friendly torch because the enemy carrier decides we don't need to keep our house at all. But yeah, so I knocked down quite a few aircraft, and it's even before they can launch their strikes, or at least for the most part. Alright, now that we showed that off, let's just finish off this game here. As you can see, secondaries have been opening up for quite some time, but have not really done anything. Audacious, however, is a pretty decent armored carrier, so I'm not that surprised by it. But against 12-inch shells against the broadside, you would think one would find a citadel, and we did. Alright, so that was a pretty decent game. Let's see how we did. 228,000 damage, 2 ships sunk, 109 shell hits, 27 aircraft shot down, 1 citadel, 7 fires, 2 modules destroyed, 2 defended caps, and 72 secondary hits for 4,800 base XP. We did 61,000 damage in high explosive, 87,000 damage in armor piercing, 79,000 damage in fires. So you can see how her high explosive spamming capability is pretty decent. And out of, was it 72 secondary hits, only a couple, maybe just 2 did actually any damage for less than 500 damage. So really not all that much. So as you can clearly see, capability is pretty decent along with setting fires. Our anti-aircraft defense is really good as well. Your armor not so great as we were citadeled right off the bat. Your secondaries are accurate, they just don't do any damage. And then your armor piercing shells are kind of trolly. Sometimes they do a decent amount of damage, sometimes they just laugh at you and overpen and ricochet and shatter. So it really depends on the target and where you hit the target, but most of the time it's safe just to stick to high explosive. With that, I will wrap up today's video. If you liked the video, make sure you like and subscribe for further content. And tomorrow we'll be going over the newest tech tree ships that came out, starting with Hiruraga. So, thank you again, and take care.